is going to be in the book of Philippians, chapter 4 and verse 13.
All right. There you go.
Philippians chapter 4 and verse 13.
I love it. I love it.
The pastors already spoke up on it earlier today. Philippians 4 and 13 says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You may be seated. Thank you.
All things. Yes, sir.
While I was doing my study for this message, I was listening to Dr. Wayne Dyer, and he said something that I want to share with you guys. He said, attitude is everything, so choose a good one. And that's so fitting. Attitude is everything. So we should have a good attitude about everything that we do.
Positive attitude.
And attitude, by definition, is a settled way of thinking or feeling about someone or something, typically one that is reflected in a person's behavior. So if you're going to have a settled way of thinking or feeling about something or someone, make it a good one. Make it a good one. I'd like to start by sharing a story, and I shared this story in my trial message, but I think it's fitting for this message right here.
All right. All right.
There was a man from Oakland who had been a carpenter and a contractor for many years. He was straddling the fence about retirement, but one day a preacher asked the carpenter to build him a house. The carpenter agreed to do the project, but he wasn't enthusiastic about doing the project. Therefore, during the process of building the house, he was trifling about his work habits. He was what we call cutting corners. He would show up late to the work site and leave early. He would purchase the cheapest materials and hire cheap contractors. To make a long story short, he completed the project, but he knew he had not done his best work. Nonetheless, the time came for the final walkthrough with the preacher. And as the carpenter prepared for the final walkthrough, he was sitting around thinking about his retirement. He was thinking about his 401k, and he was thinking about what he would be doing next week at this time. So he was having a whole bunch of selfish thoughts.
Yeah.
But then the preacher arrived, and the carpenter attempted to hand the preacher the keys to his brand new home. But the preacher did something that completely floored the carpenter. He shoved the keys back to the carpenter and said, "These are the keys to your new home."
Wow.
And at that very moment, the carpenter began to think about all of the shortcuts he had taken.
Talk back.
He began to think about the inferior materials that he had used. And he dropped his head in the lap of his shoulders because he knew he had made a huge mistake.
Right.
He started thinking about the excellent work that he had done throughout the years, and he felt even worse. And the moral of this story is, in everything that you do, put your best foot forward and give 100%. Do all things, amen. Do all things with integrity. Don't cheat yourself, and don't try to cheat others.
That's right.
Talk to me.
You're worth it, and doing the right thing is always worth it. The carpenter's attitude was a poor one.
Yeah.
And it was not as if he didn't know how to do a good job. It was his attitude that hindered him from having the greater blessing. Notice I didn't say it was the preacher's attitude. I said it was the carpenter's attitude that determined his own outcome. And that's the way we should look at our lives. We are the determining factor where we will end up. In part 1 of this series, I mentioned that it is our attitude, not our aptitude, that determines our altitude.
Right.
So I'd like to give the definition of those 3 key words again. Attitude, again, is a separate way of thinking or feeling about someone or something, typically one that is reflected in a person's behavior. Aptitude is a natural ability to do something. And altitude is the height of an object or point in relationship to sea level or ground level. Therefore, when we take a look at the root meaning of this saying, it really means this. It is your settled way of thinking or feeling about something or someone that is reflected in your behavior, not your natural ability to do something that determines how far above ground level that you will rise. It is your aptitude, it is your attitude, not your aptitude, that determines your altitude.
That's right.
And that's why I agreed with Dr. Dyer when he said, attitude is everything, so choose a good one.
Yes, sir.
It is Black History Month, and looking out, you guys look all nice with your gear on, and I think that we should celebrate it even outside of February.
Oh, yeah.
And we do monthly,
Talk to me.
and it's a worthy celebration of our heritage and our history.
Yes, sir.
A part of celebrating our heritage is acknowledging those who have come before us,
Yes, sir.
acknowledging those whose shoulders we are standing on.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Individuals such as Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black history. Acknowledging individuals like Booker T. Washington and George Washington Carver,
Talk to me.
two brothers who teamed up to make a difference for their people there in Tuskegee.
Yeah.
Acknowledging others like Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King, who had different approaches but fought for our civil rights.
Yeah. Yeah.
Acknowledging individuals like Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman, who rose out of the most horrific circumstances to become abolition heroes. Acknowledging ancestors like Imhotep and Amenhotep IV, who were great kings and rulers of some of the greatest dynasty in all of human history.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledging individuals like Queen Nzinga and Queen Hatshepsut, I think I said that right, who all,
That's all right.
who although were women, were great rulers whose fingerprint on history will never be forgotten.
Yes, sir.
And there are many other great individuals who deserve to be acknowledged. Individuals like Marcus Garvey, Thurgood Marshall, John Henry Clark, Richard Navies, C. Gardner Taylor, Benjamin Mays, Pastor Manuel Scott Sr.,
Yes.
Mahalia Jackson,
Yes, sir.
Ida B. Wells,
Yes, sir.
Mary McLeod Bethune, Muhammad Ali,
Yeah.
Madam C.J. Walker,
Name 'em.
Drew Henson, Dr. Charles Drew,
Yeah.
Benjamin Banneker, Nat Turner, Huey P. Newton, Dr. Miles Monroe, the notorious Big, and Tupac Shakur. And I could go on for days naming all of those people who we need to acknowledge. These are individuals who demonstrated greatness that our people once possessed. And they have set the tone for contemporary greats like Barbara Lee, Freddie Haynes Jr., Reverend Dr. Reverend Dr. Robert McKnight, Evangelist Manuel Scott Jr., Dr. Jeremiah Wright,
Yes.
Pastor Jacqueline Thompson, President Barack Obama,
Yes.
and First Lady Michelle Obama, Minister Louis Farrakhan, and so many others who are currently holding up the banner for our people. And I believe more of us will once again demonstrate the attitude of those greats someday.
Yes, sir.
We shall overcome is an attitude.
Yes, sir.
We used to have some pride about ourselves as a people.
Yeah.
Our forefathers and our ancestors had strength, faith, and courage that, frankly, we seem to have lost somewhere along the way.
Right. Right.
We once lived with the worst living conditions,
Yes,
but
sir.
we don't seem to have that strong spirit as we had in the past. And why is that? Only God knows the real answer, but it's my humble opinion that we don't have, that it is that way. It is because we don't have the attitude regarding life that we used to have.
Yo,
Yes,
let's
sir.
say it.
We must have, to a certain degree, been fooled into believing that we have arrived, but we have not.
We haven't.
We've been fooled into believing that we are all created equal and that there is liberty and justice for all. But some of us know good and well that's not completely true. And this is not a new phenomenon, but it is one of the reasons that we don't have the power in which we used to possess. Our forefathers fought and fought and fought in order to change some of the injustices that existed in their day. And what I notice nowadays is we complain more than we fight. We whine and cry more than we strategize and resist. We don't unite and support one another like we used to. Instead, we have this every man for himself attitude.
Oh, yeah.
Our forefathers had the we shall overcome attitude,
Yes,
but in
sir.
2020, many have the I shall overcome attitude. Am I right about that?
You're right about it.
See, we must have lost sight of the fact that there is strength in numbers,
Yeah.
especially when those numbers are in agreement and have a like mind. I think it's worth parking here for a brief moment because we need to understand that the importance of having an attitude of unity and agreement is very important.
Very important.
Unity and agreement are synonyms.
Yes, sir.
You know, a synonym is a word or a phrase that means exactly the same or nearly the same as another word in the same language.
Yes, sir.
So unity and agreement are synonyms.
Yes,
And
sir.
it is an attitude that we need to embrace.
Yes,
In
sir.
Matthew chapter 18, verse 19, it says, "Again I say to you, if two of you agree on earth about anything they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven.
Yes, sir.
We can make substantial progress if we could only unite and agree.
Yes,
If we could unite and agree, we could change the world. And there's more division in 2020 than there ever has been in our society. We need a
watch out.
attitude adjustment in that area.
Yes, sir.
We need to adjust from the I shall overcome attitude to the we shall overcome attitude.
Yes, sir.
We know the old saying, united we stand, divided we fall.
Yes,
it's
sir.
true.
It's
We can
true.
get far more done by working together.
Yes, sir.
This is a simple concept that if manifest, we would yield considerable results.
Yes, sir.
It's a simple idea, but I guess it's a difficult thing to do. Having a close family and participating in team sports, I learned that working together is better than working alone.
Yes, sir.
I read in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 11, if it is cold, two can sleep together and stay warm. But how can you keep warm by yourself?
Yes, sir.
Two people can resist an attack that would defeat one person alone.
Yes, sir.
And a rope made of 3 cords is hard to break.
Yes, sir.
And I like to use this as an example, Pastor, if I could use you real fast.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead and chop through this. Easy, right?
That's right.
But a 3-cord rope, try it now.
Can't do it.
Can't do it. That's a good, thank you, I appreciate you.
Yes,
That's a good illustration of how we can have strength when we work together rather than being an individual.
Come on with it.
In Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, it says, then the Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be
Not
alone.
good.
I will make a helper who is just right for him.
Yes,
And
sir.
from that concept, the family was formed. God intended for us to operate together in unison
Yes, sir.
and in agreement.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Scott, he once said about being united that even if a man only has 2 teeth, they look better together. Side by side. I know that's the truth, yeah. Did you guys know that in ancient African institution of marriage was not based on love? No, marriage didn't happen because 2 people met and fell in love as we do in Western society.
Talk about that.
The original purpose for marriage was to bring families, communities, and tribes together.
Build family.
Our ancestors, they understood the importance of being united and living in agreement.
Yes, sir.
And I had a whole sermon about the importance of unity, but that's a message for another day. But my whole point in mentioning this is I want to speak about the importance of us having an attitude of agreement and unification.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Unity and agreement, it is an attitude. And at the present moment in 2020, we need to have an attitude adjustment about being in agreement and about being united.
Yes, sir.
Romans 12, verse 4 and 5 says, for just as each of us has one body with many parts, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ, we though many form one body.
One
and
body.
each member belongs to the others. If you stub your toe, it won't just be your toe that's in pain.
No,
your
sir.
entire body is going to hurt.
Yes,
And so it is with our people.
Yes,
If
sir.
our neighbor suffers, we all suffer.
Come on with
Look at
it.
how we felt when we lost Kobe. It was such a tragedy. And when the terrible news dropped, we all felt it. And I don't think anyone in here is related to Kobe, right? But his passing hurt us because he was like a beloved family member.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes tragedy happens and it makes people come closer.
Yes.
Another example of a tragedy bringing people closer was when the Twin Towers were struck by the airplane.
Yes, sir.
We saw people thrusting themselves out of windows and the utter destruction that occurred on that fatal September 11th.
Right.
We all felt that pain. There was more patriotism during the following weeks of 9/11 than I've ever seen. The Democrats and the Republicans came together in agreement. People of all races, ages, backgrounds, they were supporting one another.
Yeah.
During sporting events, teams that typically hated one another were singing the national anthem while holding hands with one another. I tell you, it was amazing how that tragedy brought people together that typically were enemies and who were rivals. Despite our differences, we are one body with many parts.
Yes, sir.
And I didn't personally know anyone who perished in that act of terrorism on 9/11, but I also felt the pain of that incident. Why? Because we are one body with many parts. It was as if I had been personally attacked by those airplanes. If you slam your hand in the car door, your entire body will feel the pain. And when those terrorists used those airplanes to terrorize this country, we all felt a certain way about it.
Yeah.
Dr. King once said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And if you agree with me about what I'm saying, when we need about having an attitude of justice, about being united and being in agreement, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
When we see a brother or a sister who has fallen upon hard times, we need to treat them as if it was ourselves or one of our loved ones.
Yes.
God commands us to do so.
Yes.
Another attitude I'll continue on.
That's all right.
Another attitude that we as people need to adjust is our attitude of respect. My God, people are so disrespectful nowadays. Young people, old people, black people, white people, church people, unchurched people, male, female, rich and poor. I don't care what category we name, people have disrespectful attitudes.
That's right.
You know, I went to Southern University in Baton Rouge, and while I was there, it was one of the most peculiar things that I noticed, that everybody always speaks to you, even if they don't know you. You could be walking across the two-road highway, somebody walking in the opposite direction in the rain, and they just be waving, hey, how you doing?
That's right.
Somebody be driving by, and you ain't never seen them before, but they just be waving, hello, how you doing? And that's crazy for somebody from California or being from Oakland. I mean, that shocked me, right?
Yes, sir.
But here in 2020, in our community, you better watch who you speak to. You may walk by a group of people and pleasantly say, good morning, and they'll look at you like you got crazy written across your forehead, and then start talking about you. I could go on and on about that problem, but my point is, respect is an attitude. Just like unity is an attitude, and just like agreement is an attitude. And I told you guys the definition of attitude, and it is a settled way of thinking or feeling about someone or something, typically one that is reflected in a person's behavior. If you respect someone or something, you won't abuse it. Remember, abuse is a compound word. Ab meaning abnormal, and use. So abuse is abnormal use. So when you respect your neighbor, you like how Minister Lynch? You know how Minister Lynch, he got the way with words. I'm trying to learn from him. When you respect your neighbor, you won't abuse him or her. When you respect your husband or wife, you won't abuse him or her. When you respect your children, you won't abuse them. When you respect yourself, you won't abuse yourself. When you respect your job, you won't abuse it. When you respect your home, you won't abuse your home. When you respect your community, you won't disrespect or abuse your neighbor. When you respect your car, you won't abuse it. When you respect your money, you won't abuse it. When you respect your church, you won't abuse your church.
Talk to me.
When you respect the law, you won't abuse the law. When you respect your elders, you won't abuse them neither.
Talk to me.
Y'all understand what I'm saying when I say that, right?
We're with you this morning.
If you respect something, you will not make abnormal use of it.
That's right.
We need to learn to have a more respectful attitude for ourselves and the things around us.
Yes, sir.
If we can demonstrate more respect, then we can make this world a better place to live.
Yes,
Matthew 22, verse 36 through 40 says, Teacher, what is the greatest commandment in the law? And Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and all your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself.
That's right.
All of the laws of the prophets hang on these two commandments. Brothers and sisters, we need to show more respect, firstly for God, but we also need to demonstrate more respect toward one another.
Yes, sir.
Never take respect lightly. Even in jail and in the street life, respect is king. Respect is no joke and must be taken seriously. Jesus said that this is the greatest commandment. And this society's level of respect could use some real adjustment. So it's my suggestion for each of us to begin to demonstrate respect for ourselves and for others.
Yes, sir.
If everyone could be more respectful, this world would be a better place to live.
Right.
So I'm coming to a close very soon. And I want everybody to know that the subject of attitude adjustment is a heavy one. So I'm going to have to, do yet another message, really to touch on all the points. Two messages isn't enough. But as I come to a close, I want to touch upon one more considerable attitude adjustment that we need to make. Has anyone ever heard the saying, "You're doing too much"? Does anyone know about doing too much? Have any of you ever done too much? Have any of you ever seen somebody else doing too much? Too much of anything can be bad. Doing too much is an attitude. How many of you know that you can over-season or overcook the meat? While plants need sun and water to survive, you can overexpose them to the sun and you can overwater the plants. Doing too much is an attitude that we have to guard against. There's such a thing as trying too hard and doing too much. In our book, The U Squared, we remember the story of the fly who was trying to get through the window.
Right.
He was pushing harder and harder and harder, but it didn't work. So he was doing too much, and he still didn't get the results that he wanted.
Right.
So it's important for us to allow things to happen naturally. Allow nature to take its course. Allow room for the Holy Spirit to go to work. And most of the time, well, actually not most of the time, all the time, we should let go and let God.
Yes, sir.
When we plant a seed in the ground, we cannot uproot it every day in order to produce a harvest. We have to allow the process to take place. The Chinese bamboo has a particular growing process. When you put it in the ground, put the seed in the ground, you have to tend to it for 5 years before it breaks ground. So you can't go every day and be uprooting the bamboo tree or else it'll never grow. The Chinese bamboo tree, after that 5 years though, when it breaks ground, it grows 50 feet in 90 days. So we gotta let the process take hold, take its place. The kids at Juvenile Hall, they have a saying that they say about staff. They say staff are doing the most. And when they say you're doing the most, that means that you're doing too much or you're trying to show off. For example, there are some things that we do as a people to where we're doing the most. And one good example is on social media platforms, you can find people really doing the most. If we went on Instagram right now, we could see people fighting, arguing, breaking the law, committing crimes, and just about anything. In my opinion, people are doing the most on social media.
Yes, they are.
And there's a former NFL analyst named Herm Edwards, who's now the head coach at Arizona State. Coach Edwards said something with regard to professional athletes and celebrities using social media that we all can learn from. He said, "Don't press send." Because oftentimes we compulsively do things, but when we press send, we can't take it back. It's out there. He explained that once you press in, you can't take it back, because when you press in, you put it in the universe. And when I see egregious things on social media, I think about what Coach Edwards said. And it's so true about other platforms of our life too. When we've done something, it's done. We can't take it back.
Watch out.
Once we say certain things, we can apologize for saying them, but we can't take it back. So I say this because we have to adjust our attitude by demonstrating discipline and humility sometimes, rather than doing the most.
Yes, sir.
Whether we're doing the most on social media, whether we're doing the most at the job, whether we're doing the most at the party, whether we're doing the most while we're driving, we need to have an attitude adjustment. I actually see people doing the most at the gym. They just do screaming and hollering. I'm like, boy, you're going to hurt yourself. So you can even do the most at the gym. But we have to guard against doing the most. And as I take my seat, and I really am going to take my seat in just a minute. Ecclesiastes 3 says there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heaven. So there is a time for doing the most.
There is a time.
If you're going to do the most, you should do the most with love. Do the most with giving people grace and mercy.
Yes, sir.
Do the most with good things and positive things. Dr. King, he had the sermon where the drum major instinct. And the drum major instinct can be also called the drum major attitude. And we know that the drum major is the person who leads the band out. Yeah. He's out front. So sometimes we can have that drum major instinct, meaning that we want to be the most important one. We want to be the first. We want to be the one that's being recognized. We want to be the one who's being acknowledged. And I said there's a time and a place for everything, right? So at times, it is okay to have that drum major instinct. But it has to be when you're trying to do things involving love. And when you're trying to do things involving justice and truth and things that are positive. So as I end right here, if we're going to have the drum major instinct, make sure it's the right one, like having the right attitude. That's right. Dr. Dyer said, if you're going to have, he said, attitude is everything, so choose a good one. If we don't got a good attitude, we need to adjust our attitude to be able to have it. Appreciate you guys listening to me, and part 3 will be coming up next time.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. An attitude adjustment.